corrosion.
Fantastic.
Let's see what this is like. Hi there guys, and welcome back to the channel once again. So we're going to be tackling the next job on the Mk6 Fiesta. So you may remember from the previous episode we did the replacement tie rod end. So this one was the second element of why the Fiesta failed its MOT the other week, and that was down to an excessively corroded offside rear brake line. Now the plan for today will be to hopefully, if we can before it gets too dark, to get the brake pipe off, and then at some point over the weekend I'm going to take the pipe into a car specialist in order to get one made up, and then we'll hopefully get that fitted, and then all being well, hopefully it should be okay to put through for a retest and made roadworthy again. So yeah, let's see how we get on today. So that's where one end of it joins on to the flexi hose for this right rear hub. If you follow the pipe along, that's where the corrosion is. That's the reason why it failed its MOT. Follow it along underneath this exhaust heat shield, and it's up in there, that part there where it connects, and that's the other end that we'll be taking apart. So it's a bit of a jigsaw, but hopefully both ends come apart without too much difficulty. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a wire brush onto this just to clear up a load of the muck. So this is where it gets potentially messy, so if you want to stop loads of oil stains getting on your drive, because brake fluid is not very forgiving stuff, make sure you've got plenty of rags. Yeah, and also make sure that you've got yourself a plastic bottle ready to stick the end of the pipe into to again stop any fluid escaping all over the floor. And then with an 11mm spanner onto the end of the union and just loosen very carefully. Yep, there she goes. And it's starting to come now, look. So this is where you're going to get your rags and your bottle ready. So I've now got various points where there's clips on the underside of the car that hold the pipe in place, and there's at least 2 or 3. There's another one there, look, where the corrosion is. So there's, and I think there's another one under the heat shield, so there's a few that I need to sort of try and unclip. So that just pulls out there. There we go. A bit hard to make out, but there's one there too at the back. Just there, look. There we go. Yeah, you can see that it's come out of that one now. So that is where I need to be disconnecting. I think what I'll do is pull it down off that one as well. Just there. There we go. Try and get a spanner onto that. This union just here. And then hopefully that should separate them. I think I'm going to get quite messy. I might have to put a spanner onto the other end. Also, I just don't want to damage this pipe. Okay, I'm going to get another spanner, put it on this end of the union so that I can keep that in place whilst turning this one. I'm not sure what size. There we go. This is where you need to get the rag. Come on you go. There you go. No. definitely a pig. So what I'm going to do now, using the bottle from this side, is actually try and see if I can put this end in here, like that. So now I've just got to somehow feed it through one way or the other. I don't know which is going to be the easiest. Probably pulling actually from the wheel hub end, I think. Shouldn't be any more anyway. And that's obviously the damage, or the corrosion. That's the reason why it failed its MOT. Okay, so you can obviously see that the brake line here is still dripping at the moment. Now what I don't want to do, of course, is have the fluid level go up too much and then start coming out of this neck. But the problem is that because of how it's this pipe shaped, I try and put this down, look, and it just wants to come back up again. So I don't know, I might have to see if I can put some weight of some sort onto this bottle to stop it springing up again like that, because you can see, look, it's going to try and slosh and then go, try and come out that hole. Put these underneath the bottle. Just have to keep an eye on it. Hopefully it'll be all right. Okay, so I'm just taking the corroded brake pipe now over to Fit Apart. We'll take a look at it, and yeah, hopefully they'll be able to make a new one for us. Right, okay, so I've dropped the pipe off. The guy there seemed pretty confident that he'd be able to make one up for us, so that's obviously pretty promising. So he's going to give us a ring tomorrow when it's ready to collect, and I'll pick it up then. So yeah, that's probably what we'll do, guys. We'll pick up tomorrow. Okay, so I've got the new pipe from Fit Apart. So it's a case now of just bending it into shape so that it mimics the old one. I think what I'm going to do, because I know that this bit is actually going to be on the hub, I'm going to probably leave that bit until I actually get everything else onto the car. But I'm pretty happy with how that's looking right now. A tweak or two I'm sure that I'll need to make, but pretty happy with that. Right, let's get it on the car. Right, so that's going to be the path that I'm going to thread the new pipe through. So you've got here one of the clips, and it's going to be thread into that gap so that it sort of goes underneath that heat shield. And obviously makes its way under the car and somewhere into the centre where it'll connect up. I need to make sure that it goes on the back side of this flexible hose, because it's going to come up there and join there, like that. Now obviously, having taken so much care previously to make sure that we didn't spill any of this fluid onto the drive, what I don't want to, of course, do now is to knock over this bottle and spill what's been collected in it up to now. So I'm going to swap the bottle over, put a different one on, and then put the cap on this one so that I don't knock it over. To be fair, there shouldn't be much more, if any, to come out. I've collected all that up to now. Imagine if that had spilled all over the drive, it would have made a right mess. Shouldn't need it for long anyway, of course, because I'm going to connect that end very shortly. There's the end. The end that was in the bottle is now through there. Oh, ow.
That's my nose. That's the male end of the new pipe, and the female end is there. So they just need to just sit in one another. Like that. Good sign. So I'm only going to just do them by hand for now, because what I want to do is just make sure I've got everything threaded around all the sort of nooks and crannies on the underside of the car first before we tighten this bit up. I'm fairly happy that that's tucked up in there nicely.
Sat nicely in that clip. And of course it's a case of thread it the rest of the way up to the wheel hub. Before we do thread that to the end of the hub, I'm going to just tighten this connector up.
Okay, so the next thing that we need to now do is to put the bend at this end in order to go into the flexible pipe. Now, if you were to look at the old pipe, you can see that the bend itself is quite a sharp one. Now, what we of course don't want to do is risk putting a kink into the pipe here when we're trying to put that bend in. We want it to be a nice smooth curve. So, good tip, get yourself something solid, preferably metal, that's circular. Socket would be perfect. Just check that it's pretty much matching the contours. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then line up where it is that you want to put your bend. Make sure, of course, that you've got the end of the pipe, the connecting piece at the end here, using that as your reference, and just use the socket itself like that, just to bend it round. And that way what you're doing is that you're spreading the pressure evenly across the pipe, and you're less likely to put a kink in it. Just like that. You don't want to over tighten. Fantastic. Just get the pipe clipped into place and she's attached. What I'm doing now is just very lightly using a hammer just to tap the pipe very gingerly so that it lines up perfectly with the contours on the underside of the car. Don't want to go too hard. Ideally I'd prefer a rubber mallet. I don't have one to hand, so I've got a cloth with this hammer just to soften the blow a little bit.
I'm happy with that.
So the next stage of the process is to top up the brake fluid reservoir. Now on this particular Fiesta, as you can see, it's .4 fluid that's required. And that's the one that we've got, but obviously different cars will require different makes, so make sure you check before you start doing this.
Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to now locate the bleed nipple. Now, on the back of this particular wheel, it's just here. It's got a rubber cap on it, so first of all we need to take this off. Like so. It is a bit rusty, but hopefully it shouldn't be too bad, too clogged up to get a rubber hose on.
Okay, so now we're going to try to do the bleeding of the brakes. Now, this is a process that I have done before. I actually did it on the Capri, and I got Millie to give us a hand with pumping the brake pedal whilst I was adjusting the bleed nipple valves. Now, what I've done is I've had a look to see if there's any way that we can do this on my own. Now, I am conscious that there are various sort of brake bleeding kits out there to allow you to do this without having to have somebody pumping on the brake pedal. But last night what I did was I came across a really ingenious video of a guy that had essentially made up his own brake bleeding kit using various household parts. And so I've had a look at it and it's really, really good. And I've made one of my own. So what we've got here is I've got the spray nozzle and pipe out of a cleaning bottle, and I've attached various pipes to it, made sure that they're airtight, and that end will go on the end of the bleed nipple. And the idea will simply be that pulling the trigger of the spray nozzle bottle will act as a vacuum pump, and will act essentially as pumping the brake pedal on the car. So hopefully this will result in me not needing to have somebody pump the brake. We could just simply stick this on the bleed nipple, pull the trigger, and in theory that should draw the fluid and the air bubbles, of course, up the pipe and do the process of bleeding the brakes. So that's what we're going to try, see if it works.
And then what I need to do is get a spanner in there to loosen the valve on this nipple itself. So just put a spanner onto this.
So now obviously just got to be very careful. It's not playing ball. Typical. Just hammering an 8mm socket onto the back of the bleed nipple because it is a bit of a tight fit. Let's hope this works. So it's loosening it, that's good.
Okay, so using that socket set, now that I've cracked the initial part, now you can see, look, it is now turning. It's getting looser now.
Get the pipe on the end.
And that's fairly loose now. So I'd be very surprised if that's not going to allow me to start withdrawing fluid.
Ah, yes. Yeah, they all come, look. Fantastic. Now what we want to do, of course, is we want to don't go too mad and actually empty out the reservoir. So I'm just going to do that check first before we just let any more come out. I'm going to be drawing more air in. Top that up a little bit now. Now it's fluid is actually starting to come out here. Just got to just keep doing this a little bit.
Next thing to now do, make sure that the valve and this bleed nipple is nice and tight. Pipe off.
And then just pump the brake pedal, make sure that we've got no sounds of any air escaping when we're pressing. Obviously that's got to be a nice firm pedal, which it is. Whereas before it was, of course, with all the air in, dead spongy.
Connection to that hose, nice and dry. Connection to that hose, also nice and dry.
Just one more check of the reservoir. Again, it's dropped ever so slightly, so we'll top that up.
One last thing that I almost forgot to do was to put the rubber cap back onto the bleed nipple. Job done.
Right, let's see what this is like. Pedals nice and firm, there's no sponginess to it. Just get it around this corner, get it up to a little bit more speed. Yep, fantastic. That's really good. The brakes are applying nicely. Pedals say it's nice and firm. There's no sponginess, so yeah, really pleased with that. That's fantastic. Right, okay, so I think we'll probably wrap the video up then at that point. So before we do, just want to pass on some thanks. So firstly, I want to say thanks to all the guys at Fit Apart for providing the brake pipe. It was less than a tenner, all the bits all in, and it was obviously dead easy to fit, so massive thanks to you guys for sorting that out for us. I want to pass on some thanks to Gerry at Gerry's DIY. That's the YouTuber who I'd discovered had made that brake bleeding kit, the homemade one. Fantastic video that you put up. Really informative, dead easy to follow, and obviously using your steps I was able to make my own, so massive thanks to you, mate. I'll leave a description to his YouTube channel if you want to obviously check out the bits and pieces that he's got up on there, because he's got loads of stuff. And also as well, I want to pass on some thanks to my dad for giving us that piece of pipe that I needed in order to finish my own homemade brake bleeding kit. So thank you very much for that, Dad. Really appreciate it. Right, okay, so if you like the video then guys, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you want to put forward any comments at all on how you thought progress has been today, let us know any thoughts, of course, if you thought I did well, or any other advice that you want to give to us. It's the first time that I've ever fitted a brake pipe to a car before, yeah, obviously any feedback that you guys can give to us would be greatly appreciated. If you want to check out my other social media platforms, details of those are in the description below, as is my email address if you want to get in contact with me directly. And if you'd like to give the channel some support, then please hit that subscribe button at the end of the video. Right, okay, I'm going to get inside now, get some tea. I've got to get washed and then get myself ready for work. So until next time guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I shall see you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves, see you later now, cheers, bye bye. Oh, and it's just started raining, so that's pretty good timing.